Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also makes videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Please make sure to look in the description below where you will find a link to all my social media outlets where you can get my patterns, how to join the Watch Barbara Knits Facebook group so we can talk about knitting, and how to support me on Patreon. Today I have for you a Fave 5. What Fave 5 is me picking out my favorite 5 patterns under a theme. Now, I'm not saying that these are the best 5 and I'm going to fight you for it. And I'm not even saying that maybe 5 days from now, I might not have new favorites. What it is that I pick a theme and then I go through and it's whatever's catching my attention right then. What really sparks my joy and what really is like, ooh, I would love to cast this on. This looks like a whole lot of fun or is beautiful or it's going to teach me something. And the theme for today is getting started with cables. If you are a knitter who has been thinking about doing cables and weren't really sure where to start, or you're a little intimidated, these are cable patterns to get you going, to get you started, and a little bit of instant gratification. Even if you're an experienced cable knitter and you just love knitting cables, these are ones that you can get done really, really fast, because that was one of my categories, because sometimes tackling something that's really big can be really scary. Now, I'm going to put pictures up on the screen, and I have the information on my secondary monitor, so you'll see me looking over here, and you're like, what's she looking at? Well, I'm looking at my monitor. So let's get going with these, getting started with cables patterns. First off, really, this is the one that actually gave me the inspiration for this theme. This is the Book Wave bookmark by Beverly S, and her company name is Yarn Intercept Designs. And talk about instant gratification. It's a bookmark. And low intimidation factor, it's small, it's easy, it is now this is in fingering weight yarn on a size 2, so it is small needles, but it's a way to dip your tiny, tiny baby toes in the concept of cables. These are actually slip stitch cables, so it's actually almost a tiny bit like cheating, because when you're moving the stitches, you'll know what stitch you need to move from the previous row because it's slipped. And you're just doing a simple wavy pattern and just gently manipulating. I'm pretty sure they're all 1/1 crosses. What that means in cable talk is the number of stitches that are crossing. 1/1 means you're only using 2 stitches and you're just rearranging their order. So you knit them out of order to make a cable. You got 1/1, 1/2, 2/2, 4/4. You can, sky's the limit, or your bravery is the limit. These are very simple cables. It is a very short, small, fast project, and frankly useful. Who can't use more bookmarks? You can give them away, you can teacher gifts, whatever you want to do. You can bust one of these out. Very small. It says it takes 30 yards of fingering weight yarn. So this is the Book Wave bookmark by Yarn Intercept Designs, and I just think it's absolutely lovely. It has that typical cables going on top of a reverse stockinette, so it pops out, and it's a great way to get started. Next up, we're going to go up a little bit. Still not very complex in the cable. It's a slightly larger project. And this is the Newtown cowl by Ruth Brasch. It is knit in bulky yarn. So it's labeled as bulky yarn, but she's saying that it's knit with 2 strands of DK held together. So you can either do 2 strands of DK, or I guess you could go ahead with a bulky yarn, but that way it's bulked up. You're doing it on 10.5 needles, so it's going to knit fast. Again, with my low commitment here, she did it in Lion Brand Wool Ease Solids, Heathers, and Twists. It's a great yarn. I've used it. I used it in my most recent book. It's hard wearing and it's a really nice yarn. What I really like about this pattern is the way she's playing with one of the characteristics of a cable. Because you're taking your cable and you're crossing stitches over stitches, it compacts your knitting a bit. It pulls it in because you're pulling the stitches over. And then if you look at the other, garter has a tendency to expand because you're knitting every row. It's actually something that's wider. So she's juxtaposed these cables with these columns of garter, or even, I think it might be reverse, I'm pretty sure it's garter because there's definitely columns of reverse stockinette between. So again, so you've got the cable that's pulling in and the garter that's kind of spreading out, and it gives it a really nice motion with very minimal effort. It's worked in the round, so that's super easy. I really like it. It looks fast and fun, and it'll give you an introduction. They look like they're maybe 2/2 cables, but if you'll notice, the cable is going in the same direction every time. You don't have to worry about, am I crossing this way or am I crossing this way? As long as you do the same thing every time, you're going to be just fine. So that is Newtown by Ruth Brasch. Now, this one, you're like, where's the cable? And look, there's a little tiny cable right there on her hat. And I think it is just a perfectly placed detail that just makes this hat. This is Caliper by Tori Gurbisz. Gurbisz. She's got an S and a Z. I'm sorry if I've mangled that. And I think this one is one of the things about it, and one of the reasons I chose it, is what I just said about Newtown. This one actually has stitched cables that are going in opposite directions. So you're going to have to do a right twist cable and a left twist cable. You'll have to do both. And this is, but in a very small space. So mostly it's stockinette. You're knitting stockinette and then you're like, okay, I'm going to do a couple cables. Very, very low impact in your knitting process, but very high impact in this design. And so you're just doing these few little cables and you'll get used to, okay, this one's going to the right and this one's going to the left. And you can get an idea of how the different directionalities of cables work. And it's just adorable. It has the ribbing on it involves twisted stitch, which I think looks really cool. And a fun thing she talks about on the page is that it's a worsted weight beanie and a DK weight scrunchy toque. So there's actually instructions for 2 different sizes using 2 different yarns. And if you go and click through it, all of the links to all these patterns will be in the description notes below. If you click through, you'll see that you've got the beanie version and then there's more of a slouch, but it's really cool because she's got like a little toggle in the back with a little bit of I-cord locking it down, and it just looks super cute. So that's one of the reasons I picked it, because it was different. Her suggested yarns, she's got Malabrigo yarn worsted, Knit Picks gloss DK. So she's got a couple DKs and a couple worsted. And again, it's a hat. It's knit in the round on size. She's got 6 and 9. So it's going to go fairly quickly, especially if you do the worsted weight one and you're going to learn a little bit about those little cables. So this is Caliper by Tori Gurbisz. And I think it's adorable. Okay, the next one is, these are the Astor Place mitts by Kirsten Kapur. And I love these. I love fingerless mitts. It's one of my favorite things to knit, and it is one of the most common things that I wear because I never really get particularly cold in Florida. But every once in a while, my hands get cold. I'll be in an air conditioning situation, and then I really need them. This one, it is still a very simple cable. We're still only twisting in one direction. Well, actually, no. This one goes this way. Yes, we're only twisting. It's kind of upside down because he's playing his guitar on my picture. You're still only twisting in one direction, but this one, we've gone up a little bit into, I think it's a 4/4 cable. So what we're looking at here is a larger cable. It's still a simple cable, and we're still only doing a cable every so often, but this is just a little step up. And it is a beautiful pair of mitts, perfectly unisex, so you could knit them for yourself or anyone else. And again, it's fingerless mitts. They are fairly low impact as far as in your time consumption. I love these. They're beautiful. It's all reverse stockinette, and that is very common. If you're not familiar with cables yet, and I mentioned this earlier, cables are frequently worked on a field of reverse stockinette because it makes them pop out. You can see them and they punch up a little bit more. Let's check on the yarn. So this is a worsted weight on size 7 needles, so a little denser of a gauge, but that's going to keep you warm, and they come in small, medium, and large sizes. So again, pretty much can knit it for anybody. And she did it in Barocco Artisan, which is a nice yarn that has been discontinued. I was thinking that. I thought I remember them being discontinued. But again, it's a worsted weight yarn. There's so many different worsted weight yarns out there you could use, and these would be absolutely, I love them. I want to knit a pair for my husband. I think he'd really like them. But when you're feeling like, okay, I've got it. I can do 1 over 1. I can do 2 over 2. Let's see how many more cables we can cross. And then finally, we've got here the cabled phone cozy by Heddi Craft. And you're like, really? A phone cozy? And I thought this one was perfect. As you can see in the picture, we have a little bit more elaborate of a cable. And there is more than one cable going on here. So you've got your central cable that is spiraling up the middle, but then also the ones doing this bit are also cable, and what those cables are doing are crossing knit over purl stitches to give that one, so it looks like one hump, but it's still a cable. I assume, because that's what it looks like. So what we're doing here is getting into a more complex cabling situation, but in an itty bitty little format. So you can do it. If you're looking to up your cabling skills, this would be. So it's like one of the smallest things, but it's got a little bit more complexity. And you can do it. And it'd be a lot of fun. And honestly, if you are an adventurous knitter, you could jump right in on this one and learn a whole bunch of stuff in just this one pattern. You can learn about the cable twisting and how to do the knit over the purl, and it looks amazing. I also think it has, let me see, it is worked flat, so that is excellent. I'm not sure. It looks like it might even have an I-cord style edging, but I'd have to get the pattern to find out for sure. It is in worsted weight. This one is in Malabrigo Rios. So again, another worsted weight, super fast. This is why I picked these out for y'all. Size 7 needles, and you can adjust it to the size of your phone cozy. If you need to make it wider, just add some more of the reverse stockinette between the cable and the edges. You are good to go. Work the cable longer to make it longer. I guess if you wanted to go crazy, you could make an iPad cover. So this is the Cabled Phone Cozy by Heddi Craft. Part of my Fave Fives is when I have a pattern that fits in with the theme, that at the end you get a bonus 6 pattern that I'm going to talk about that fits in with the theme. And for that, I'm going to this is one of my very first patterns, and it was my very first pattern to be published in a knitting magazine. I have this photograph of it. That is my head. I don't have the sample of it to show you because it actually went to England because it was a British magazine. So this is knit flat. It starts small and tapers. It's like this, and it works out because I don't like a lot bunched up behind my neck. So it goes out to its full width, and then you have this cable. And as you can see, this one, it goes like this. It's crossing the same direction, but again, it's where you're doing knit stitches over purl stitches to give that effect of it still popping out of the reverse stockinette. And this one's a little more complex because framing either side of this very simple sinuous cable is those smaller little 1/1s that are going up the edges. And I worked those actually as twisted stitches, but you can simply do 1/1s as well. And as you can see, it goes open, it goes closed. And the cables that are going out like this are very simple cables, but right there where they cross over each other, to maintain that effect of them floating in the stockinette, you're actually ending up crossing 5 stitches. And what it is you've got, and it's what I think of as a 3-section cable, where you've got the 2 stitches that are coming in from here that are going to be knit stitches, and the 2 stitches that are coming in from here that are going to be knit stitches, but then you also have the center, and there's a purl. So it's like you have to do a little bit of juggling, and you end up going, once you get them arranged, you end up knit 2, purl 1, knit 2, and that makes that fancy cross in the middle. So again, it's upping the skill level a little bit, but in a very small, very non-intimidating project. So if you've been thinking about cables, I hope that this has inspired you to maybe pick them up, because they're really not scary, and these are very small commitment type projects. And if you're just looking for some small cable projects to get done just to have fun because you love cables, maybe you could consider some of these. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it the thumbs up, click that like button. And if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.